Welcome back to the Beer Junkies. Today we are brewing a summer shandy. The shandy is a highly refreshing beer that is absolutely perfect for the spring and summer months, and there's no better time to brew it than right now to get that ready for these upcoming warm days in May and June. So the summer shandy is an American wheat beer base or a blonde base, whichever one you prefer, mixed with lemonade. The lemonade varies based on your preference. The ratio varies based on your preference. So this is totally customizable. There is no guidelines for a shandy. It's totally up to you. So what we're going to do is walk you through our design, our shandy, and you can either use the one that we've got, or you can alter it to your own preference. I'm going to walk you through the ingredients that we use, the malts, the hops, the water profile, and then the yeast strain. I'm going to walk you through our process, the mashing, mash out, sparging, the boil, whirlpool, knockout, the fermentation profile, and then I'll walk you through the lemonade that we use, a ratio that we use it, and then the carbonation level. And at the very end, I'll walk you through our taste test of it. So stick with us and enjoy. All right, first up, as always, is the water profile. For the shandy, it is going to be 50 parts per million of calcium, 5 parts per million of sodium, 75 parts per million of sulfates, and 60 parts per million of chlorides. To do this, I'm adding calcium chloride, gypsum, and Epsom salt. I'll add this to the mash tun and then also to the sparge water in the hot liquor tank. This will give us that nicely balanced beer that we're looking for. So right now I'm heating the hot liquor tank up and filling it up. So once it gets to the right temperature and volume, I will transfer it over to the mash tun and we'll mash in. But before that, let me walk you through our grain bill. We already have everything milled and ready to go, but these are all of our grains. We have plenty of rice hulls on top. Underneath that, I have a mix of Pilsner malt and wheat malt, and that is just 50-50 to get to the gravity that you need it to be, because you want this base of this beer to be grainy and bready, and the Pilsner and wheat malt will do just that. Because we add so much wheat, though, I highly recommend adding rice hulls. The rice hulls are the hard outer shell of the rice that will kind of mimic the husks that the malted barley has and provide stability to your mash bed. We add about half a pound of rice hulls per 5 gallons of beer that you're producing, and that will provide the stability so you don't get a stuck mash during sparge or any other part of the mash. But the mash tun is filled and ready to go, so let's mash in. We just mashed in, so now we're sparging. We're pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun through the false bottom, pushing it through our wort pump into our Herms coil, going in the lower Herms on the left side, and then coming out of the upper Herms on the right side to keep that heat right where we want it, about 152 degrees, which is then recirculating through here to our sparge ring to clarify and set up that grain bed. So if I take it over here to our control panel, we will mash between 152 to 154 degrees for 60 minutes. After 60 minutes, we will mash out at 168 degrees to turn off all those enzymes. Even though we're using a lot of wheat malt, the wheat malt is pretty well modified, so we will not have to do the protein rest for this style. If you were to use a lot of unmalted wheat, you would probably want to consider doing a protein rest for 15 minutes, about 122 to 131 degrees Fahrenheit, just to break down some of those proteins and beta-glucans to prevent any wort separation issues or haze issues. But the wheat malt is pretty well modified, so we will just do a single infusion mash at 152 degrees. We just finished the 60-minute mash, and now we are mashing out. It is the same setup, pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun through our wort pump, but we are now raising the temperature of this hot liquor tank up to about 176 degrees to raise the mash temperature to 168 degrees, which is already on its way up over here. So we got the hot liquor tank getting close at 171, and the mash tun's already at 160. Once we get to 168 degrees, we will begin to sparge. We just got to mash out, so now we are sparging. We're pulling wort from the same connection at the bottom of the mash tun. I added this hose to our wort pump and switched the lever over, so instead of directing it to the Herms, it is now pushing it into our boil kettle, which is heating up. At the same time, I'm pulling off the sparge water out of the hot liquor tank, pushing it through our water pump. But I also moved the hose over here to where the wort was recirculating, So it is rinsing the residual sugars that are left in those grains until we get to the volume and concentration that we want. While our kettle is heating up, we were able to measure out our hops. These are our bittering hops of Citra. We are using about 0.35 ounces per 5 gallons, and this will give us 14.7 to 15 IBUs worth of bittering. And then these are Mandarina Bavaria hops. We use half an ounce to an ounce per 5 gallons, and we add these directly to the whirlpool. This will help enhance some of those citrusy notes that we're looking for. We are up to boiling, so we will boil this wort for 90 minutes, add the hops in as we need to. At the 5-minute mark, we are actually going to add coriander and sweet orange peel to help enhance the citrusy and herbal flavor and aroma of the wheat beer base, but we will be back to show you those when we add them. These are the orange peel and coriander spices that we are adding. We add them at a rate of half an ounce of orange peel per 5 gallons and a quarter of an ounce of coriander per 5 gallons. And we add them in the last 10 minutes of the boil. We just finished the boil, so now we are whirlpooling, pulling the wort from the bottom of the boil kettle through the racking arm, pushing it through the pump and then into the tangential input. This will pull all of the proteins, hops, everything else we don't want to transfer over to the center of that boil kettle so we can transfer over clean wort. After we whirlpool it for 10 minutes, we're going to turn that pump off, let it wind down for 10 minutes before we go into knockout. We just finished the whirlpool, so now we are knocking out. We're pulling the wort from the racking arm port of the boil kettle, pushing it through the pump into our heat exchanger. We're going in right at around 66 degrees. We've got our oxygen going in there. Going all the way down into our fermenter, which is bubbling away as we push out all the excess air in there. This is the yeast that we use. It is the American Hefeweizen ale yeast from White Labs. It will produce a very clean and crisp beer with no banana or clove, and that's exactly what I want for this summer shandy. We just finished knockout, so now we are setting the temperature for the fermenter. I will set it at 62 degrees, and that will really limit the ester production in this American Hefeweizen yeast strain to make it a very neutral beer. We will ferment it here for about a week until it gets within 5 specific gravity points of terminal gravity, and I will raise it up to 72 degrees for that diacetyl rest. After that, I will cold crash it to 33 degrees and transfer it to the bright tank. But as I transfer to the bright tank, we will also add that lemonade we're going to make this a summer shandy. For the lemonade part of this shandy, you can make any lemonade recipe that you would like if you have one, but I will give you ours. We use about 1 gallon of water, 1 pound of sugar, and then 36 ounces of lemon concentrate or fresh lemon juice. Mix all those together very well. For the water you're using, make sure it is sterile and about the same brewing water that you use, just to keep things consistent. Make sure when you add the sugar that it's all dissolved in and there's no clumps. Once it's all dissolved in and mixed together, you can put it into your bright tank or keg, whatever you do for your secondary fermenter. And then pump the beer from the fermenter in there to mix it all together. Once it's all mixed together, carbonate it to 2.5, 2.6 volumes. Mind the headspace. The first time that we brewed our shandy, we didn't consider the extra volume from the lemonade we were adding, and the headspace was very minimal and it was very difficult to carbonate that beer. So if you have to adjust the beer's volume, do that so that you can get enough lemonade in there to really make it work. The ratio of lemonade to beer is also very adjustable. It's entirely based on your preference. If you're able to, I would actually highly recommend that you brew this American wheat beer base by itself first, mix the lemonade separate, and then in a flight of glasses, do different ratios to see which one you like best. We did that, and we came out to it's around 1 part lemonade to 4 parts beer. That, in my opinion, is not too sweet, but you still get plenty of that lemon flavor and make it very refreshing beer. You can try that and see from there what you would like to do. But again, I would recommend that you try those different percentages yourself. One final thing to note with the lemonade, if you are using lemon juice, natural lemon juice, I highly recommend using potassium sorbate at a rate of about 2.5 teaspoons per 5 gallons. That will prevent the yeast from reproducing and fermenting the additional sugar that you just added. The same technique that you use if you're back sweetening a hard seltzer or a wine or anything like that. Some of the lemon concentrates have preservatives in them that will prevent the yeast from reproducing. But if the yeast does reactivate during carbonation after you put the lemonade in, it will cause a real foamy mess and it will change the flavor of the lemonade. So again, 2.5 teaspoons per 5 gallons of potassium sorbate. All right, this is what we made. It is hazy, low flocculent, just like our American wheat beer. I'm gonna have to keep this one hidden in the back because people have been bugging about this for months. The smell, all lemonade. All lemonade. I get maybe a hint of grainy base, but lemonade's dominating the taste. The lemonade definitely overpowers, but it's not sickly sweet. There's still, you can tell that there's a beer in there, but it's very much lemonade. It's very refreshing. If you're over the age of 21, we do not condone underage drinking. Please drink responsibly. Cheers. If you would like to see more brewing content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button right below, and please let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments. Cheers.